Hi everyone. This video is about the first chapter of our textbook, which is largely just about getting acquainted with the idea of statistics and looking at data sets. So when we look at a set of data, it's usually the case that we'll have a number of different individuals, or sometimes these are called elements, about which we've collected a whole bunch of data. The elements in this data set, for example, are people that are indexed by numbers. So we can talk about the first person, the second person, the 12th person. Each individual has associated with it a number of measurements of what we call variables. So all of these things, age, weight, income, pay type, income category, and so on, those are all different variables. And we have observations about each of these individuals. An observation is the set of all measurements that we've made for all of these different variables for one particular individual or element from the data set. And there are different kinds of data that we can collect. These different variables have been color-coded so that we can compare and think about what sorts of data they are. The variables that are shaded green are what we call quantitative data. That means that they're numbers that we measure. So age in years, weight in presumably pounds, income in dollars, and so on. All of these values that have green shaded at the top are quantitative variables and record quantitative data. These variables that are colored light red are variables that represent categorical data. Now there's different kinds of categorical data. There's what we call nominal and ordinal categorical data. Nominal categorical data is really just like these things that are like categories, right? Does a person live in a home, a condominium, an apartment, etc.? Do they live alone or not? What is their gender? And their pay type is salaried or hourly? And those are, they're different categories that we can put our different individuals in. There's one kind of categorical data here, though, that is not what we call nominal. It's what we call ordinal. And that is this one that's labeled income category. So in the case of income category, there's three possibilities, low, medium, and high. And we call that an ordinal categorical variable because there's a natural order to the possible values that this income category can take on. Low, medium, and high have a natural order. So this is an ordinal categorical variable, this income category. Now looking at the quantitative variables, age, weight, income, car value, credit card debt, and mall trips are all shaded in this light green color. And then there's this one shaded in the dark green color that indicates that it's what we call an interval variable as opposed to a ratio variable. So the way you can think about these is that ratio variables are variables that are measured on some kind of scale that has an actual notion of zero, right? So your number of mall trips could be 0, and your credit card debt could be 0, and so on. And moreover, not only is there a notion of actual 0, it's also informative to know the ratio of two values. For example, individual number 9 made 10 mall trips, and individual number 8 made 5 mall trips. So we know that individual number 9 made twice as many mall trips as individual number 8. So that ratio, 10 to 5 or 2, so twice as many, that is a meaningful quantity. And so that's why we would call that a ratio quantitative variable. Now, in the case of hours and minutes of birth, individual number 9 was born at 4:10 in the morning, and individual number 10 was born at 5 minutes after midnight, and there is nothing meaningful about the ratio of those two times. There is meaning to the interval between those two times, but the ratio of times is not a meaningful thing. So for that reason, this hour and minutes of birth, right, and pretty much any time that you would tell on a clock with hands is going to be an interval variable. Other examples are things like temperature in Fahrenheit and Celsius, where ratios, again, are not very meaningful in any kind of absolute way. Okay, so in the next video, we'll talk about cross-sectional versus time series data and where data might come from.